travel at speeds pushing 200 miles per hour. The very best drivers in the world putting their lives on the line every week. It's time to get the lowdown on this week's contenders, plus a look at the key driver matchups. Right now on Gaughan Racin.
Welcome back in. Brendan Gaughan, Jeff Motley. We're here at the South Point Hotel Casino Sports.
So are other people.
There are people here. It's Gaughan Racing. I'm Jeff. He's Brendan. It's just exciting to be back here in the casino, seeing the buzz. I mean, there's a lot of people here. I mean, were they standing here at the doors when you guys were ready to open them?
No, the big fella, the real Mr. Gaughan, he did not want to line outside. He was not one of those that wanted to have people lined up at the door and have this big rush in. So we said 8 o'clock this morning, and we opened them about 7:30 to the few people that were there. But it was really nice, steady all day long. And then we show, of course, Racin has the sportsbook camera, and they show the sportsbook, and it's an empty sportsbook because there's still not a lot of sports. But the pit looks great. People are at the machines. Poker room is packed. Bingo started. Bingo starts right now. Bingo comes on same time as we are right now. So our first bingo game is starting, and the place is doing really well. We're happy that people are back. We're excited that people are back. Employees wear masks for everybody. We've got sanitation stations everywhere, disinfectants everywhere. We're going to have the cleanest joint in town, I can promise you that.
It's glad to see our city coming back alive here in Las Vegas. You've been here your whole life. I've been here for over 21 years, so it's great to see everything coming back. But we're here to talk some racing for the next hour.
Do we have to talk about last week?
Well, but yeah,
how we picked.
Okay, but I'm not going to get upset about our picks when we don't have group matchups and driver head-to-heads.
We didn't have all the stuff we get to pick.
It's hard to pick a winner in a top three. It's really hard to do that.
Shouldn't be that hard.
Well, picking a winner is always difficult because we had an accidental winner last week anyway. Well, he just happened to be in the right place.
You call it whatever you want. I call it, I got the trophy sitting on my shelf.
I understand that. And if you'd had him in the ticket, you would have cashed a ticket. So I agree with you.
That's right.
But before we talk about Bristol, or before we start talking about Atlanta, or even Martinsville that's going to take place before we have another show after this one, one bit of news that came out of NASCAR this week is that Dover is going to take one of their races and move it to Nashville for at least the next 4 years. But it's not the Nashville Fairgrounds Raceway. It's a super speedway that's really about 35 miles outside of downtown Nashville, I believe. I think somebody said it's 35 miles from downtown Nashville.
We used to race there all the time.
So you've raced on that track. You like that track? Is anything you can compare it to?
Yeah, no, it's another one of those tracks very similar to a Dover where it's its own animal. Nashville's 1.25 miles, got decent banking. It's concrete. It's the only 1 mile plus racetrack that is all concrete. So the grip level is amazing there. And Dover Raceway bought it a few years back. And so I'm kind of bummed they're taking a race from Dover because I do love Dover. But excited to be racing back in Nashville. Nashville, the town itself, Jeff, that's other than Vegas, I think Nashville might be the most fun town in America.
It's a fun city. And NASCAR really found out when they took their awards there after it had been here for 10 years. They did a great job in Nashville. There's a lot of race fans around that area. Yep. Just kind of surprised me a little bit that they ended up on the big track and it didn't get something going at the fairgrounds.
No, it doesn't to me. The fairgrounds is look, I love the Nashville Fairgrounds, and I'm going to get hate mail for saying that I think it should be at the Speedway, not the fairgrounds. But Nashville itself, it's a marquee facility. It doesn't need anything to do to get the lights back open. We've been testing there as NASCAR teams for the last couple of years. When we could test, we'd go to Nashville. The track is set up, ready to go, turn the lights on, and I'm excited to have it back. Because that's a city that, look, they got the Cup Series banquet. They've got a lot. It's in the South. It's got a lot of race fans around there, and I think that they'll put on a great show. And I'm surprised it just went right back to Cup. That it wasn't like, hey, we're opening.
They've never had a Cup race on that track.
Never had a Cup race.
And when Dover built it, I think they were hoping that they would get one. They just didn't know it was going to take them 20 years
and close it for 10 years.
Well, speaking of racing in the great state of Tennessee. We had some pretty exciting racing over the weekend in Tennessee, and I know I called Brad Keselowski the accidental winner, like the accidental tourist, because he took advantage of a couple of, at least one other guy's mistake. He was running third.
He was there.
He was in the catbird seat.
In order to win these things, you got to be there.
He was in the catbird seat.
You can't run 15th to win that race.
But I want to talk more about the guy who didn't win. How it cost all this money? Well, but I want to talk about the guy that didn't win. We talked about Chase Elliott. He had been so good on these intermediate tracks. We said, okay, let's see how he does on a short track.
Dude,
I thought he had the best car again, and I thought he might have been the best guy out there, just overdrove that last corner.
Look, we talked about, the accidental winner, 13-1 shot, Brad Keselowski to win the race last weekend. But what did we say on this show? Who's the hottest driver in the sport right now since we come back going green racing?
Certainly Chase Elliott. There's no question. And
you were worried about about not mile and a half. You were worried about the short track. What's he going to do? Did he prove to you?
And I picked him to win, though. I still believed in him. I picked him to win, and I was very disappointed.
By the way, if you're on the VSiN stream, it's a great picture online right now. It was the 9 up under Joey Logano. they were hitting each other pretty good there. Had a little conversation afterwards. Them two, as you were saying, Chase Elliott him and Joey Logano were racing for the win.
The two guys with masks yelling at each other.
I think that was there's so many things that are funny about that, but. That it was one heck of a show for the fan, and like you said, we're talking about cashing tickets, right? Well, if you had Brad Keselowski, you were 13-1 winner. If you, like all of us on this show, I believe even Isaiah had a Chase Elliott pick in his deal. We all were getting pretty excited with 3 to go or 2 to go, and then we all were going wah wah wah.
And none of us have any problem with what happened, right? Chase is going for the win. I mean, that's what you've got to do.
He didn't go to wreck Joey Logano, and he would have moved him if he could have, but he drove, and I've been in that position. You drive in so hard, you lose the rear grip. And if you watch, what happens to these guys all day long. They get in, they overdrive a corner, the rear comes out, it wiggles a little bit, he goes up, they got locked together, they went into the fence together, they'd been beating and banging on each other very cleanly for laps. And there was nothing wrong with any of it. It was Bristol, hard racing, and I think even Joey, even though he was upset because he was on the losing end of it, so to speak, but they both were running hard, beating and banging on a short track, nothing wrong, no harm, no foul, just hard racing. And Brad Keselowski sitting there going, please hit each other.
Well, and now talk about Brad Keselowski. Here's a guy, he's got 2 wins. And both races he won, Chase Elliott had the dominant car and either got crashed out or he had to go make a pit stop. Because in the Coke 600, we know he had that one, and he had no choice but to pit. If you're Brad Keselowski right now, are you feeling like the luckiest guy out there?
No, he was in position each time. And I think that's what you're not giving credit for, especially when we talk about numbers right now. Brad Keselowski to be top 3 this weekend at Atlanta, he's moved all the way down to a plus 275. When we get to that point, that's because, yes, he's the accidental winner. Yes, he won the race off pit road, and Chase didn't pit. His race team performed. His crew chief made the right pit call, and he did the right thing on the racetrack to win. And you must be there to win. It wasn't like he was running 20th.
I agree with that.
Everybody,
he was running 3rd at Bristol, and he said, if those two guys,
he was running top 5 of the Coke 600 before the pit stop. So it wasn't like he was bad. He just wasn't dominating. He wasn't leading laps. But you got to be there. And these are his first wins without Paul Wolfe. So I mean, they've done a great job over there on that discount tire number 2 to basically gel together as a crew chief driver combination, and they're where they need to be when it matters.
And I think it really also shows how hard it is to win these races. I mean, you remember there was a time when it seemed like every week Jimmy Johnson was winning or whatever a few years ago. But these races are hard to win. Chase Elliott is discovering how hard they are to win.
Even when Martin Truex 2 years ago was dominant, or Kyle Busch last year was dominant, I hope people understand that when you're that dominant, it's hard to win these things. Everybody loves to talk about, NASCAR, Junior and the Dale Senior. They let Richard Petty win his 200th, and no. There's so many things that happen in this sport that are out of your control. A guy gets loose underneath you and takes you out. You drive over a piece of debris. Kurt Busch got a piece of tape on his grill and overheated. Those are things that you can't control. Our sport is so much fun when it comes to the randomness of what happens, and you always have to be there to capitalize. And Brad Keselowski, the accidental winner, he was there to capitalize.
Let's talk about the teams for a second, because I think that's something that we're starting to look at now too. The Hendrick team has gotten really good. William Byron is probably the one who is struggling a little bit, but Alex Bowman is running well every week. We've seen a resurgence of Jimmy Johnson. I think I'm to the point now, I do believe Jimmy's going to find a way to win a race this year. I really do. And Chase Elliott is the hottest guy on the circuit in terms of consistency and how well he's running. And not just that team. I mean, we've got some other teams that have run well. The Penske cars are certainly running well, and the Gibbs cars are still doing fine. But what do you think about this Hendrick deal? I mean, are they becoming the team to watch right now?
They're the biggest bump in the sport. But even RCR and their Chevrolets have had a large bump. Austin Dillon with top 10s, Tyler Reddick with top 10s. These guys, Chevrolet as a whole has made a great bump. But you're going to Hendrick. In the last year, did we ever have a Hendrick car as the favorite to win a race? I can't remember a time that had them below a Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, and Martin Truex.
Yeah.
Right now, to win this race, you have Chase Elliott at 600. You have Alex Bowman at 700. And they're two of the favorites to win this race.
And when we get into group matchups, we got a lot to talk about.
Absolutely.
Because we're going to see some really interesting stuff when we get into the groups, and the Hendrick guys play prominently in that.
Jimmy Johnson is 18-1. Jimmy, part of last year, was in the 30s and 40s. And William Byron is 30-1 to win this race. But William Byron has run very well. And then a pit mistake or a flat tire or they've had certain things take themselves out of races.
He's had the opposite of Brad Keselowski.
Yes.
Now. I mean,
but all four of them at one point were running in the top 5 in at least 2 of the last 5 races, and you're going, holy cow! I mean, Hendrick hasn't had that since the days of Jeff and Jimmy and and Casey Mears over there. This is a long time that they've been like this. They're not dominant yet. Well, but they're getting there.
And I know we had a break about 9 weeks where we didn't have a race, but we've run a lot of races since we came back. We've had 2 at Darlington, we've had 2 at Charlotte, we've run at Bristol, and we're getting ready to go to Atlanta. I think we were kind of at this point last year, and we really were looking at it and saying, okay, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, there's 2 guys.
Joe Gibbs Racing.
Well, not just Joe Gibbs Racing, I'm saying, but we really felt like, okay, we thought Homestead, that Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch were 2 guys. We said, okay, they're going to be at Homestead. I'm not sure right now that because of some of the competitive balance at the top, that I can pick out one guy that I say, you know what, that guy's going to be at Homestead.
I can right now. It's Chase Elliott. If you ask you were asking how Chase Elliott.
Well, I guess that's kind of what I was getting at. Is he becoming that guy?
That's that. He ran at the Darlington Superspeedway, which is one of the scary, with no practice, being off for 9 weeks, and flat out looked great both races. He went to Charlotte, looked great both races. He went to Bristol, looked great. So to me right now, the guy that sticks out more than more than Kevin Harvick, more than Kyle Busch, Martin Truex Jr., the guy that's sticking out to me is Chase Elliott.
Kyle Busch hasn't won a race yet this year, I don't believe.
And Kyle Busch didn't win a race for a long stretch last year. Remember,
he won races early, and then he went from May all the way until the playoffs, I believe.
Yeah,
before he won, and then suddenly he got hot again.
He goes. Remember, in our sport now, though, in the playoff format, it only takes 1 win.
Well,
Homestead.
Well, that's
and all you got to do is get to Homestead.
You got to get to Homestead. And if too many guys pile up too many bonus points, it's going to get a little bit harder when you're trying to go to Homestead.
Piling up bonus points right now.
Well, that's exactly. He's got 2 wins now. I mean, that's big. And look, he's going to a place where I believe he won at last year. I think he won the race at Atlanta last year, if I remember correctly. He's going to be good there. Let's talk a little bit about Atlanta before we get into the odds. You've raced at Atlanta a number of times. There's always been, I guess, some of the drivers have always had. I talk about the pavement. Mm-hmm. A lot of guys say, don't touch Atlanta. Well,
don't touch it.
I know that.
Don't touch it.
I know that's part of the company that I work for, and I know we're almost getting to the point where we're going to have potholes pretty soon.
Don't touch it.
We can't do something.
Leave the pothole, drive around it.
But why is that? Explain to me why is Atlanta different? It's not like a Darlington or a Charlotte. It's different.
It's a mile and a half that some people would say is similar to Charlotte.
It looks that way if you take a picture of it or you're watching it on TV.
It looks just like a Texas, a Charlotte. It mimics those. Not so much of Vegas, but we just showed on the Racin stream a real close-up picture of the asphalt that they've taken. That asphalt is what is the differentiator. And the big black tracks that are around there, that is seam sealer. That's a glue. And that glue gets put between cracks in the road when you go down your street at home. There's seam sealer, right? If you touch that stuff, look at that picture on the Racin stream. I know the radio guys aren't getting this, but that is a rock. That's not a nice, perfectly sealed.
It looks like a cheese grater.
It is a cheese grater. It doesn't have that, perfect seal where the tire adheres. That is gaps in the tire. That is where we're not attaching to the racetrack. It wears that tire out. It takes that tire and just absolutely destroys it. And we have 3 to 4 seconds of fall off, Jeff, at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We have maybe 2 seconds of fall off.
But at Atlanta, you start seeing the tire fall off within 3 laps.
5 laps. Yeah, 3 to 5 laps. That's the way racing used to be. That's what I wish everything was. The track that upsets me the most, I know we're supposed to talk about Atlanta and gambling, but the track that upsets me the most is Michigan. And you know why? Michigan used to be the most fun racetrack in the country. And it's really sad because Michigan, the people they paid to repave their track, probably did the greatest repave in the history of NASCAR. That track is still so good and so sealed. They did such a great job. And it's like, ooh, that stinks.
But you guys, as race car drivers, you don't really want your racetrack to be like you want your highway that you're driving.
No, I wanted it like Atlanta. I want it like California Speedway, like Darlington, like Vegas is getting back to. I want those seams. I want it to be difficult. I want it to be mean. I want it to be tough to drive.
So what kind of driver does Atlanta play into their hands?
Kyle Busch type, aggressive type guys that want to have an attitude that I'm better than you and I'm going to last longer than you. And some of these young kids, I've said over and over, these young kids don't have that attitude. And what have they done every race since we've come back?
Proving you wrong.
They have proved me wrong repeatedly.
And some of these rookies are really impressing me. When we've talked about Tyler Reddick, John Hunter Nemechek, looks like the last couple of races, Christopher Bell's starting to
get back together,
starting to figure his thing out.
No,
and these guys with such little seat time. I mean, that's what's impressed me is the lack of practice.
No seat time. You look at the odds; they're moving up on the odds sheets. Alex Bowman is now. I just read a couple stats real quick. Alex Bowman has moved way up that odds sheet. Chase Elliott is near the top of the odds sheet. Eric Jones is inconsistent. He's up and back on the odds. But, these guys are coming. I mean, the younger guys are getting there. Ryan Blaney's near the top of the odds sheet every week. I mean, it's starting to move that way.
Well, let's talk about the odds to win at Atlanta. We can get into the odds to win the race, and we'll talk about the top three before we go to our next break. You talked about it. Chase Elliott has now moved into co-favorite with Kevin Harvick and with Kyle Busch. I don't know that I remember Chase being the favorite.
No, I can't remember.
And I'm not going to be shocked if by the time this race starts on Sunday, he's not the sole favorite.
I bet that number right now. We always talk about when the bettor needs to get in, and thankfully we can talk about it this week, Motley, on a normal schedule. Right now,
I've liked these Wednesday night races, it's just tough for us to do a radio show.
But Chase Elliott at plus 600, that number is only going to go down. And I think Kyle Busch at plus 600 is going to go the opposite way to win that race.
Well, and our next guys in line, Alex Bowman and Brad Keselowski at plus 700. Are you a little surprised that Bowman's numbers are that good?
No. He won Phoenix. He's been fast.
I understand, but you're putting him at plus 700. And let's look right below that. You got Martin Truex Jr., Joey Logano at 10-1, and Denny Hamlin at 12-1. I just think I'm a little surprised that Bowman is that much more of a favorite over three guys who, week in and week out are perennial contenders to win races.
What have you done for me lately?
Oh, come on. We've only run a handful of races.
What have you done for me lately?
Denny Hamlin has been in contention every week. Martin Truex Jr. runs solid. Joey Logano certainly could have won last week.
Denny Hamlin, last 5 races, 38th, 16th, 38th, 4th, and 11th.
Okay, well, one of those is because he didn't even start the race until it was 8 laps down.
No, Atlanta. I'm talking about Atlanta.
Oh, at Atlanta.
Just at Atlanta. I don't see problems with that. I don't see any problems with those numbers right now because Martin Truex Jr., that's the one that surprised me. But because right now, Martin is not running that strong. Martin is not looking like the Martin Truex of the last 2 years. But Martin Truex Jr., the last 5 races, 6, 7, 8, 5, and 2.
Well, I think since we came back from the break, if you want to call it a break, I don't know any other way to describe it, I don't think the Gibbs cars have been quite as good. We have not seen Kyle Busch be the guy to beat.
Denny won. Let's not take that out. Denny won. But
Denny won. I think most of us still think that there was, Denny won, but I don't know that he was the dominant car. He was good, but I don't necessarily know that he was the dominant car out there.
He did what he had to do to win, which is we always have that. You and I have that argument all the time of, the win. But to me, you look at that, and I say that Gibbs is not as strong as they were. I say that Hendrick is stronger, and I say that Stewart Haas has arguably been as stronger. And I think Penske, how can you say Penske isn't stronger? Joey Logano is battling for the win, and they wreck. Well, Brad Keselowski's won the last 2.
Brad's got 2 wins. And honestly, I think even though we know it's a dotted line, Matt DiBenedetto's run well. I think Matt had a good run going at Bristol. I think it was a speeding penalty, I believe.
And then he got into a wreck because the speeding penalty is where he wasn't supposed to be, got dinged up. And that's what happens at Bristol.
And at Bristol,
you can't make a mistake at Bristol like that.
Right. You get behind in a situation like Bristol. Now let's look at some of the more longer odds. We talked about Ryan Blaney, another Penske car there. He's 15-1. Then we got Jimmy Johnson and Kurt Busch, both at 18-1. A couple of guys with pretty good track records there at Atlanta.
And let me tell you, Kurt Busch, last 9 races, because he missed a race, remember, in the last 10 for a stupid deal I'm not going to get into. He's got 7 top 10s last 9 races, 4th, 7th, 8th, and 3rd in his last 5 races. So, and led laps in all of the races. Kurt Busch has been the strongest Chevrolet, and he is the best fantasy point getter in the last 10 races there.
Well, and a few of the long shots we got out there, Eric Jones and William Byron at 30-1, but now we've got Clint Boyer at 50-1, Eric Almirola and Matt DiBenedetto at 80-1, along with Matt Kenseth. You see any of those long shots that you say, wow, I wouldn't be shocked if one of them snuck up there and grabbed the trophy?
Kenseth is one that intrigues me when I think we talk about him a lot, because you got to look at what Kyle Larson did. Last time Matt was there, he finished third. He's got a second, a fifth, and then a blown motor in 19th at the end of the race, and then a third. But then how did Kyle Larson do? He had 3 top 10s in the last 6 races. Kyle and second 2 years ago. So that race team with Matt Kenseth, I like that. I don't know about 80-1 to win, but I definitely like Matt Kenseth in that car, at least at the top 3 at the worst.
Are you a little surprised to see guys like Almirola and DiBenedetto with numbers that high? Because, Almirola is a guy, it seems to me like every week.
We poo-poo him,
And he's somewhere up near the front. Now, he hasn't won. He hasn't won like this year. He's won in the past before. But I think there's going to come a day where we're going to see one of those guys sneak up there and grab a trophy. I really do.
Yeah, he had the pole last year this race and finished 8th. So, Almirola is definitely strong. Stuart Haas is strong. I think that there's if you want to take that flyer, I think that a Matty D or an Eric Almirola are really good flyers with those odds next to him.
Well, I'm just kind of excited when I see the odds to win the race, because it looks like we've got some pretty long odds even on the favorites. We don't see a plus 350 or
we don't see
400.
plus 400.
We've got 3 favorites there at plus 600.
600 is a good number, and there's 3 of them with it.
It is a real good number. When we come back on Gaughan Racing, Brendan and I are going to start breaking down the top 3 through DraftKings. We got some driver head-to-head matchups, and we'll be talking about our group matchups. We'll come back on Gaughan Racing.
back to our weekly NASCAR show, live from the sportsbook at the South Point Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. Now, back to Gaughan Racing.
Welcome back into Gaughan Racing. Jeff Motley, Brendan Gaughan. This is what we call our B block. We're going to talking about the top three odds to win top three, the DraftKings.
Top three, the one you can read from over there now.
Well, Isaiah decided to make the type bigger because you were getting old.
Well, hold on. He went 2 weeks ago where it took a magnifying glass. Now he's come back with, "Hey, look, I can read them from across the room." I think he's trying to mock me.
Isaiah, want to weigh in?
I mean, I'm not mocking you. I'm just trying to make it easier. I mean,
I think he's mocking.
All right. Well, while we're mocking, let's talk about these top three, the DraftKings top three. Now, surprisingly, while Chase Elliott is a co-favorite to win the race, he is not the favorite for top three. That honor goes to Kevin Harvick. He's at plus 145. And then we've got Kyle Busch and Chase Elliott at plus 185. And they're the only guys that are under 200.
But how many times in the last 2 years, Jeff, have we talked about Kyle Busch or Kevin Harvick being minus 150, minus 175?
Well, that has happened a lot in the top three. You're exactly right.
And yet, right now, they're all plus numbers.
You know what's funny? It seems like with Kyle and with Kevin, they either win or they don't finish in the top three.
Yeah, no, they win or they're 12th. But no, those are good numbers for them. And we've talked. Chase Elliott, hottest guy in the sport. Alex Bowman, 240. Hendrick Camp. Brad Kay, Joey and Martin Truex at 275. Dude,
And look, you got those three guys at plus 275, and then you got Denny Hamlin, who I know you're kind of down on Denny at Atlanta because he hasn't run well there over the last few times out, but a plus 300 on Denny Hamlin to get a top three. I kind of look at the fact that over the last 2 years, Denny has been just a much better racer. I'm talking about in 2019 and what we've seen in 2020.
True, but he hasn't been that at Atlanta.
No, but what'd you say? He finished fourth last year?
No, 11th last year.
11th last year. Okay. So, I mean, it wasn't horrible.
I mean, I look at a guy like Jimmy Johnson, who we talk about all the time. Jimmy's little resurgence here. And Jimmy, he has 2 firsts, now going back to 15 and 16, and then 19, 27, 24. That's the what have you done for me lately? Jimmy Johnson, we've talked about. He was not that good anymore. But with this new package, the way he's been running, do we put him back in the conversation?
Well, he's coming in at plus 450, and I actually really like that number on Jimmy Johnson because I think that Jimmy...
I don't think it's big enough for me to jump on him. I think it still needs to be bigger.
Well, and maybe his odds could go up a little higher. Let's see what kind of betting we get on him. We look right beneath that. We've got Clint Boyer, Eric Jones, both coming in at plus 600. William Byron, plus 850. And then we get into Matt DiBenedetto and Eric Almirola, 10-1 and 12-1, respectively. Wow. I'm not sure. I think those are pretty low numbers on a couple of those guys there.
Eric Jones, his last finish there, he finished 7th, and Eric Jones is one of those that, man, when Eric Jones shows up well, he does do very well. I'm more interested in going down that list and getting towards that, like you said, Eric Almirola, Matt Kenseth, that range. How about Ricky Stenhouse Jr.? I mean, surprised us with a 4th place finish at the Coke 600 a couple weeks ago. It sounds like I say a couple weeks ago because it was.
That's because we keep running like two races a week. 2 races a week.
Ricky Stenhouse, 14-1, he surprised a lot of people there. I would not go so far as say I think he's going to surprise me again, but it's there. And Tyler Reddick has run well. Austin Dillon has run well. I mean, 12 and 16-1. I don't know if I'm ready for a top 3 with them, but there's some numbers in the top 3 that I do like. Just looking at that plus 600 range, plus 450 range, even plus 275 range I like.
Yeah, it's just the thing with Atlanta is you're probably not going to get some guy that's going to just luck into a top 3.
No.
It just doesn't typically happen there. You don't see it's not like a big pileup like a Daytona or Talladega. You really don't even have that much for fuel mileage races because the tire wear almost goes away before a fuel run.
Caution comes out and I go, tires, please. How many? You've only done 5 tires. I mean, that's Atlanta.
And I think that's going to be a big thing that's going to play into it. And that's why I think you're really going to look at the guys who consistently run well are the guys you're really going to want to bet. I just don't see taking a big flyer on a guy for a top 3 that's got a big number or a race win who's got a big number.
No, I mean, I'm going to look at the stats that we've talked about, and I'm going to go back and look at the guys that we know right now are hot, the Chase Elliott's, who has a decent number with a plus 185, the Brad Keselowski's, who, like you said, lucked into 2 wins, but he was sitting in the top 3 both those races to get those 2 wins. So I'm going to look at a guy like Brad Keselowski at 275. I might go down to that Kurt Busch number because Kurt Busch has been really good there at plus 400. I like those.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that you're going to see there. I mean, I I just can't see where you're going to take a John Hunter Nemechek to come in and
do it.
Get
Look,
the top
if
three.
he gets the top 10, that's what we love. John Hunter's been doing great. Top 10's phenomenal. Great job, John Hunter.
Yeah, but
that's a long way away from a top three.
But that's what we're talking about. Really, is just. I mean, we're just only going to talk about top three. I mean, if you start putting odds on top 10s,
you give me a top 10 number. That's a different story. I'm gonna, those numbers are going to be much more paltry, and I'm going to be jumping on something like John Hunter.
Well, when we come back after this break, we go into the next segment. We're going to be able to start talking about our driver head-to-head matchups. There are some really good driver head-to-head matchups out there this week, by the way, and the group matchups. We're really going to have a lot of fun talking about the group matchups. We got some different guys in A and B. So we'll be back on Gaughan Racing in just a few minutes.
NASCAR show, live from the sportsbook at the South Point Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. Now, back to Gaughan Racing.
Quick Picks, the real money parlay props game based on daily fantasy scoring, has your favorite NASCAR drivers in head-to-head matchups in this week's race. And VSiN customers can play Quick Picks through this special offer. Get a 100% automatic deposit bonus up $100 when you sign up for a new Quick Picks account. Sign up now at quickpicks.com/VSiN bonus. Then select the ones you think will finish higher with fantasy points. Pick between 3 and 10. Then place your bet between 10 cents and $100. If all your picks are right, you win. The UFC, PGA, and MLB are coming soon. Available in 27 states and D.C. Must be at least 21. Go to quickpicks.com/VSiN bonus and start playing Quick Picks now. Brendan, Jeff Motley, Brendan Gaughan, doing our reads here. It was better than the one that Brendan once had to read a few months ago.
We confuse everybody by switching hosts every week. I think we're probably like the only show in the world that just lets everybody share hosting. We just go back and forth.
Kind of fun, though.
It is fun. I like it, though.
It is fun. Anyway, Jeff Motley, Brendan Gaughan, Gaughan Racing. We're talking about the top 3 at Atlanta. We've talked about chances to win in Atlanta. Now let's get into some of these head-to-head matchups. And
there's some fun ones. I like it.
And for those who can watch us on VSiN or watching us on YouTube, we'll see put our numbers up on the screen here, and we're kind of on our first page of numbers. And one thing that you and I kind of talked about during the break, Brendan, is the overwhelming favorites we see Chase Elliott and Kevin Harvick compared to everybody else.
Chase Elliott, Kevin Harvick are minus 110 at each other, and Chase Elliott and Kyle Busch are minus 110 against each other. Which, look, how many weeks has it? Kevin or Kyle have been the massive favorite. Chase Elliott is up there now, head to head, minus 110 across the board. I'm not saying I like betting it because but you got Chase Elliott minus 130 and Martin Truex Jr. plus 110. And Martin Truex Jr. has dominated mile and a halves. So those to me are extremely amusing to look at. And the other one, Jeff, we were talking about is the guy that's won 2 of the last 3 races. First on this page, Brad Keselowski is with Chase Elliott plus 110, Brad minus 130 Chase, which tells you Chase is really good. But Brad Keselowski, he's plus 110 against Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick on a minus 130 line.
I'm going to say, the one that jump off the page to me is how big of a number we see beside Joey Logano's name on his matchups with Chase Elliott and Kevin Harvick.
Plus 130.
A plus 130 against Chase and a plus 140 against Kevin Harvick.
And Kevin's a minus 160 in that. I mean, that's a huge...
It's almost like you're saying Joey shouldn't even bother showing up if he's only going to race against Kevin. And I just think that number is really high.
I mean, look, Joey Logano was in battling for the lead at Bristol, was in the lead in that the Coke 600. He's been there. I don't see that, but Kevin Harvick has been that top 10 streak where he finished 11th, 13 races, and then finished 11th, missed it by 1.
Well, one other thing that I find, though, just a little bit humorous on here is, I mean, yes, we got all these matchups where Chase and Kevin are the guys to beat, but when you put them head-to-head against Kyle Busch, they're still not quite ready to make Kyle an underdog. I mean, I'm looking at Kyle Busch over here against Chase Elliott. Where are they? They're both minus 110. Yep. I'm looking at him, Kevin Harvick. Yes, Kevin's minus 120, but Kyle's even. You're still not getting any juice.
Still not getting a lot extra.
Nothing is coming on Kyle. So I find that a little bit interesting that even though those two guys are supposed to be the favorite, they're not giving up on Kyle Busch on that deal either.
And you can't, because the money can come in too quickly on him.
Now, we even look a little bit farther down, and I'm talking about Joey Logano again. He's a plus 110 against Martin Truex Jr.
Normally, the last couple of years, I'd say that's, Martin was so good at mile and a half, but
Joey has been really good on mile and a half as well. And, Atlanta for him, Joey would probably tell you Atlanta is as much his home track as New Hampshire is, because even though he was born in Connecticut, he spent most of his life growing up in Atlanta.
Don't make me do a Martin Truex Jr. every track's his home track.
Well, exactly. But, Joey grew up in Atlanta. Now, granted, he was racing on the quarter-mile Legends Oval most of the time when he was in Atlanta. But nevertheless, it's his home track. It's kind of a place I think that's important to him. He's going to probably try a little, I don't know if he try harder, but I think it just means a lot more to him to try to get a win down there.
I look all the way down at the very last one we have on the last screen. You got Kurt Busch even money with Ryan Blaney minus 120. Ryan Blaney.
There's a picture, by the way, on our screen of Joey Logano in Victory Lane at a mile and a half track. It happened to be right up the street here.
There you go. But let me touch on this. Ryan Blaney in the last, he's got 4 data points at Atlanta. He's got 25th, 18th, 12th, and 22nd, and he is the favorite against Kurt Busch, Ryan's minus 120, Kurt Busch is even, and Kurt Busch has 4 top 5s in the last 9 races.
All that tells me is the guys that are setting the odds are really going with a Penske car over a Ganassi car, not Ryan Blaney over Kurt Busch.
I like the even money bet. Right, that right there is, to me, probably the easiest money on all the head-to-heads.
Well, you want to start on some group matchups?
Let's do it.
I mean, okay, look, we just got to come right out of the box. Group A.
The groups are jumbled up, baby.
Have never seen Group A like this. Just so everyone knows, we have Chase Elliott as the favorite in Group A, ahead of Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick, both at plus 265. And then we've got Alex Bowman.
The showman.
Yeah, Alex Bowman, the showman. How did he get that nickname? Just because it rhymes?
I don't know. But talk about a couple weeks, the web we weave. I would say I would put Alex Bowman and Chase Elliott in Group A right now. They've run.
But aren't you surprised though that they would be in Group A? I mean,
yes,
you're not. You're saying they deserve it, but still surprised.
But still surprised that you've moved. And how about the fact that Group B has Brad Keselowski as the favorite of Group B at 245, Joey Logano 65, Truex 65, and Denny Hamlin 290. But the winner of 2 out of the last 3 races is in Group B, and Chase Elliott is in Group A.
All right. Well, look at Group A right now. Let's talk about that one first. I mean, do you think Chase is the guy to beat in Group A?
I do. Absolutely. After what he's shown me right now, Chase Elliott is the guy to beat in the sport.
All right, and I have to admit, I mean, it's still a pretty good number too. I mean, we're not seeing. In fact, we're going to go through these group matchups. We don't see anyone who has less than 200.
And remember, Chase Elliott has 3 top 10s in his 4 starts at Atlanta.
Speaking of another person who it really is his home track. He grew up in the shadow of that racetrack. Now, Group B. You mentioned the guy who's won 2 of the last 3 races, Brad Keselowski. He is a favorite at plus 245. But we're seeing Joey Logano, Martin Truex Jr. both at a plus 265 and a plus 290 on Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, it still doesn't make me want to bet him.
It's a pretty big number.
It's a big number, but I ain't betting him.
Are you surprised to see that group of names in Group B?
I'm just surprised that you have Martin Truex dropped out of there. And that's God, the guys that have been just so strong are not. You got to move those as they go, though. You got to move those odds as they go.
All right, let's move up. We'll move on to the next screen. We'll go into our Group C. In Group C, I find it really, really interesting. We've got 2 real veterans stuck right in the middle of 2 of the young, upcoming drivers. Ryan Blaney's the favorite in that group at plus 245. And then we've got Jimmy Johnson and Kurt Busch, the 2 veterans, and they're both plus 255. And then Eric Jones, plus 315.
Yeah, but Eric, I believe that number. Ryan, I don't think should be that number. I like Kurt Busch.
Well, I think
we've talked about that.
I think Kurt could do very well in there. Well, we've broken down half of the group matchups. We've still got groups D, E, and F to go. So Brendan and I will be right back on Gaughan Racing in just a couple of minutes.
back to our weekly NASCAR show, live from the Sportsbook at the South Point Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. Now, back to Gaughan Racing.
Welcome back into Gaughan Racing. Jeff Motley, Brendan Gaughan. We're getting into our last segment of the show. Brendan, we still got a few groups to break down. We're going to talk about a few props, and then we're going to feel a little bit better about making picks this week than we have the last couple of weeks. So let's pick back up where we left off with the groups. Group D, I think this is a nice, interesting blend of drivers here. Eric Almirola and Matt DiBenedetto are the co-favorites at plus 250. Austin Dillon plus 270 and Matt Kenseth plus 295.
Normally you look at that and say, oh, that sounds like an easy one. Austin Dillon hasn't been running that good. Matt DiBenedetto been running better. Well, hold on. Eric Almirola is that sneaky, remember we called Ryan Newman the sneaky assassin for the last couple of years. Well, Eric Almirola has kind of taken that role. And then you got Matt Kenseth, the wild card in there as a heavy underdog at plus 295. That's a good number for a Kevin Harvick. It's tough for me. I mean, Matt DiBenedetto is all the way up into Group D where, we were talking about him in Group F every week. Yeah, 2 years ago.
Chris Buescher were in the Ron Flatter group.
So now, that's a tough one for me. I do like the 295 number on Kenseth, but that's a tough group right there.
Yeah. Now Group E is kind of interesting because we've got 3 Rookie of the Year candidates and Chris Buescher, the old veteran Chris Buescher out of this group. But
grizzled veteran.
Group E, there are 3. I mean, really, you got 3 co-favorites here with Christopher Bell, Cole Custer, and Chris Buescher all at plus 260, and John Hunter Nemechek plus 285. Probably a tough group to handicap there and pick.
2 weeks ago, you and I would have said, oh, Christopher Bell's been running horrible. Cole Custer, this is going to be John Hunter Nemechek or Chris Buescher, and John Hunter would be the odds-on favorite. I mean, he's not even in Group F. He's all the way up to Group E already. But John Hunter has mellowed. Now, he's still doing way better than that team's ever done. But Christopher Bell suddenly...
maybe starting to... I mean, we know Christopher Bell can drive.
Yeah, no.
I don't think we know he's a very talented driver.
So I don't know. That to me, another tough one. I'd either go Christopher Bell or I'd go all the way down to John Hunter is my 2 thoughts in there.
Now, Group F, and I think we've talked many times on this show, Brendan, that when you get into Group F...
some of the most fun is there.
That's where you might be able to steal one, and I kind of... honestly, I'm looking at this Group F today, and Bubba Wallace, Michael McDowell at plus 260, and Ryan Preece and Ty Dillon plus 270. I kind of see one there that I think you might be able to steal one there. I really like the way Ty Dillon's been racing this year.
I do. I also think that Ryan Preece has run really well and made mistakes. If he can go mistake-free for a change, but the guy with the most experience there is Ty Dillon. Michael McDowell's got a lot of experience there, but Ty Dillon has run much better this year. Him and Matt Borland, when I say much better, they're moving into that early 20s, late teens number.
Now, we saw Bubba have a really good run, I think, last week.
No, Bubba had a top 10 last week.
But that was Bristol. This is Atlanta. It'll be a little bit tougher.
I do like the Ty Dillon or the Ryan Preece. They're the 2 dogs, and there are my favorites in that.
All right. Now, we also have some props this week, Brendan.
Neat ones, too.
We don't always have props, but we do have some neat props. And the first one I want to talk about, and I'm going to tell you, I'm surprised. The manufacturer to win the Quiktrip 500, we got Chevy and Ford at plus 160.
Toyota's 250.
So you're basically taking Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex Jr. and saying, you guys are such big underdogs to Kevin Harvick and Chase Elliott and Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano, basically.
I think there was one time last year that we had a prop of this, and it was like Toyota was minus 125. It was just they were so on fire with the Joe Gibbs Racing teams. They're the underdog right now. Chevrolet one time last year was plus 400. They're plus 160, the co-favorite.
Well, I think most of this is all on Chase Elliott, obviously, but I mean he's the guy they think's going to win, and it's our friends at the Westgate who put those numbers up. Now, PointsBet has also got a prop out there for us, and that's the car number over under, which is 16.5 is the number they've got. It's minus 115 either side. I would say it probably doesn't excite me a whole lot.
Nah, that one doesn't.
With that one. And then the race winner car number being odd or even, huge odds on even at minus 239, the odd being plus 175. I think I'm far more excited about the manufacturer matchup than probably the other two. So, but hey, look, I appreciate the folks at PointsBet. They're trying to throw something out there to get people interested.
And the even odd, we've talked about that before. the odd is a huge underdog in this because there's only a couple odd numbers.
It is. You got Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., and Chase Elliott. I mean, that's
it.
That's it.
But that number's gotten closer because there was a couple weeks ago it was plus 360.
Correct.
So Chase Elliott has definitely evened
Kurt Busch, another odd number that's out there. Okay, Brendan, we have crunched the numbers. It's time for us to kind of put our money where our mouth is, where we have to start making our picks. Now,
asterisks, I don't put my money.
Yeah, that's right. No real money coming from Brendan. Exactly. No real money coming from Brendan. Now Brendan and I are excited this week because the last 2 weeks, and our producer Isaiah, and I feel
he's
bad
keeping
for
his
him
job and is not coming back anytime soon.
Isaiah's doing a great
Isaiah is doing a brilliant job
producing, a lousy job picking, which is fine because we haven't done very well either because we've only been able to pick race winners and top 3, and this week we actually get to go into the group matchups and the driver head-to-head. So hopefully this week somebody will emerge victorious among the 3 of us, but since no one has gotten any picks right for the last 2 weeks, we will continue the same order that we normally go in. So our producer, Isaiah, he is going to pick first and speak slowly so I can take good notes.
Again, huh?
We need to card him. It doesn't look like he can even...
Okay, batting leadoff? All right, let's get this going then. Really like Kevin Harvick to win this week. He's been strong at this racetrack, so at plus 600, I feel like those are some good odds there. Going with a flyer here, but not via odds, though. Kyle Busch, top 3. Now, he hasn't done really well in the past few races this season, but I feel like he might be coming on eventually, and why not go for a shot here? And then I'm also going to take Kevin Harvick in Group A, kind of back up my winning bet right there. And then Brad Keselowski, his last 3 races at Atlanta Motor Speedway. First, second, and first. So I'm going to take him in Group B. And then just all in one, like throwing all my marbles into this. Ford to win at plus 160. So really, it's really heavy Ford.
Isaiah's never heard about the word hedge when it comes to betting.
No, he has decided he is a Ford guy this week, and he believes that stands for first on race day, I guess.
There you go.
This week. So, okay, I get to go next because
last time we did win anything, I kicked everybody's butt.
You did.
Just remind that again.
You did. So I'm going to go with the guy who seems to have figured out that if he is running third late in a race, it is the perfect place to be. So I think Brad Keselowski is going to make sure that he's in the top 3, so he is there to take advantage of someone else's mistake. So I'm going to go Brad Keselowski at plus 275 in the top 3. I'm going one driver head-to-head matchup. Don't do this often, but Joey Logano at plus 130 against Kyle Busch. I just like that number. You're looking at me really funny. Like you think I'm crazy.
I like that we're differentiated right now.
Oh, well, finally. I mean, last week you had to go and change all your picks.
Exactly.
Because we all had the same one.
Asterisk next to my loss last
My other 3 picks, I'm going to go all into the groups. I'm going to go Denny Hamlin to win Group B. I think he's finally going to have a good run at Atlanta. I like the plus 290 number because I think that's a pretty high number. Group C, I'm going to go with Kurt Busch. I think Kurt is really good at Atlanta, and I think he's a guy that's probably going to be in contention to win. And then I talked about it earlier. I think sometimes you can go into a Group F and maybe you can steal one out of there. And I'm going to go Ty Dillon at plus 270 in Group F.
All right. Well, I like that we're going to have a couple different ones. And for those at home last week, I was mad I picked last. And so my 0 for 5, I'm putting an asterisk because I couldn't pick some of the guys I wanted to pick because they made me change up.
Are you saying you had Keselowski?
I'm just saying I had to change last second because you guys picked.
Because I will guarantee you didn't have Clint Boyer to finish in the top 3 last week either.
Well, I'm just saying.
Okay.
I had other picks. Now they were yours, and you guys also went over.
Well, why don't you finish last this week and you can pick first next week?
No. I'm going to win this week because I'm going to be different than you guys. So I'm starting with Chase Elliott, hottest guy in the sport. I want to go top 3 there because plus 185 on a top 3 number with as hot as he's been. I think that's a decent return. So I got him. And I'm also going Brad Keselowski plus 275. He's in position every week to be in that top 3. He happens to get the wins, but I like those 2 numbers for both of them. I think that in the top 3, that should be a decent pick for me. And then to do the opposite of Isaiah, called hedging, not picking the same guy again, I'm going to pick Kurt Busch in Group C, just like you did. I'm going to match you on that one. But I'm going to go Group D. I like 295 on Matt Kenseth. I like what I see out of Matt. I like what I see of what Kyle Larson was doing in that car at Atlanta. Matt, I think, will continue that trend. And then we're going to go head-to-head, me and you, in Group F. I am going with a Ryan Preece in Group F at plus 270. So we get to be head-to-head in in Group F today.
All right. Well, Brendan, we've got about 2 minutes left in our show.
And there's a race that we're not going to be able to talk about.
Well, and we're going to talk about it at least for the next minute and a half until we have to wrap things up. But before we have another show after this one, we will have a Wednesday night race in Martinsville. What do we look for there? I mean, that was not one of your favorite places, I don't think, when you first started.
Better than Richmond. Martinsville a lot better than Richmond.
Well, what are we going to look for at Martinsville?
You were saying about Chase Elliott. Does he have to? Did he prove enough to you at Bristol to say you're going to be higher on him at Martinsville?
I think Chase Elliott has made me realize now. I think he's going to be a guy who's going to be a factor everywhere he goes. I think he's become one of those guys. There's only a few guys out there, and that's the Truexes, the Kyle Bushes, the Kevin Harvicks, where every track they race on, they've got a chance to win. And I think Chase Elliott is now becoming that guy.
So do I. And I think that I'm going to look a lot of that. I'm going to go back and look at I'm going to go back to last year's, because right now nobody has been able to do a whole lot of adjusting from last year's Martinsville playoff race because of being out of the shops and all the racing stuff. So I'm going to go back and look at last year's finish and put a lot of onus on that last finish. How they ran, where they ran, look at those, as the box score and find that running in the top 10 number and judge how they did off of that. Not all their finish, how they did off of that.
Well, and I don't think people should, if you're a novice bettor and you're really just trying to look to put some action down, I don't think you should really try to base much of Martinsville off of what you're going to see in Atlanta.
No,
there are no similarities, and it's going to be the first night NASCAR race ever run at Martinsville.
I think that's so cool.
Which is my hometown, so that place holds a spot near and dear to my heart.
I'm bummed I'm not there. Martinsville at night, oh man, that's going to be so cool to have that at night under the lights. Good job, oldest track in NASCAR, last one to add lights.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fantastic just to see him be able to do that and just to see the sport being able to come back. That's going to be our last Wednesday night race, I believe, for a while. So I think we're going to start getting into more some regular weekend racing. So looking forward to that. But it's just exciting to be back here with people in the South Point, Brendan. It's just been a great day, and we'll talk next week. Little Martinsville, Little Atlanta. I'm Gaughan Racing.